Hey guys, it's Jackie here at Kate. I'm Bandit Cutie, or the artist formerly known as Bandit Cutie. And I wanted to come on and make a video about bereavement and the stages of grief and how they affected me in my weight loss surgery journey. One thing I've noticed is that over the last couple of years, around Christmas and New Year's, I've lost about 3 people. All were traumatic and sudden. The first one was about 5 years ago, and it was my boyfriend's best friend who was doing fine one day, and he had an aneurysm in his brain, which caused him to go unconscious and lose brain functioning, and he was on life support. And he decompensated very quickly. So 3 years ago, actually, this year, my grandmother passed away as well from complications of diabetes. Diabetes runs significantly in my family, especially on my father's side. Everyone in my dad's side is morbidly obese, and is one of the reasons why I, decided to have weight loss surgery and just get my life back on check. She was doing fine, then her heart gave out. She had had her leg amputated and she had gone blind from the effects of diabetes, but she was having a congenital heart failure, which was one of the symptoms of one of the complications of diabetes. And then this year, as you guys have known, I've been dealing with a lot. Actually, a lot of things have stabilized in my family. This past summer was very, very tough for my family and I. Given my dad's issues, things have gotten a lot better there. But over right after Thanksgiving, I had a best friend. She was pregnant with her third child. She had twins about 4 years ago, and she was pregnant with her third child, and the baby is beautiful, and he was born, and she went home from delivery and she was fine. They said that she had an enlarged heart, but that she was okay. A couple days later, she was complaining of chest pain, and she decided to ignore it, and they found her unconscious a couple of hours after that, and they assume that she had a massive heart attack, and she was unresponsive for a while before her partner and her mother found her. And so they took her to the hospital. They put her in a medical induced coma to deal with the swelling, and it was about 2.5 weeks of going to the hospital and visiting that they decided that there was no brain functioning. So they took her off of life support on December 20th, and December 27th was the funeral. After the 27th, we were dealing with a lot. We had Christmas, we had the New Year, and holidays are always tough without your loved ones. And that's something that is difficult, and that's something that I wanted to talk about because we don't really talk about grief and how that affects us. We live in a society where we promote this stereotype that you should be fine within 3 days, and it's been it's been like a month and a half, almost 2 months, and I'm still not okay. And that's why I wanted to open discussion, because I wanted to let you guys know, as a clinician, what are the stages of grief and how did that affect me? I've dealt with grief many times before. I've lost my mother's mother when I was young. I lost my uncle, but nothing like this. And I think it was because it was so sudden, and because she was my best friend, and because we were so close in age, and it was tragic. So, it on the 17th, it was her birthday. She would have been 29, and we had a girls get together and we had a sleepover and we celebrated her life, which I think she would have wanted. So the stages of grief are, people say there are 5 or 7 different stages. The first one is shock and denial. I was definitely in shock and denial. I had this unwavering hope that things were going to be okay. I reacted in a way where I was like, no, this can't happen. Not to her. She's the healthy one. Out of all my friends, she was always the healthy one, never sick, never had an issue. The next one was pain and guilt. After the shock wears off, it's replaced with suffering and unbelievable pain. It was excruciating and unbearable, and it was in my chest, in my body, everywhere. Our mind is our strongest weapon, unfortunately, and when you get somatic symptoms physiologically, you know, it's tough to deal with. The next one was anger and bargaining. I was very angry. I didn't really bargain with God because I know that, you know, our lives, or I feel that our lives are predetermined for us. And, you know, He gives us the freedom of free will and choice. That's what I believe. I'm not preaching to anyone. So I didn't really bargain with Him because it's whoever passes, it's their time to go. But I was very angry, and not so angry at Him, but like angry at myself because I've been so busy, you know, in life that, you know, I could have made more time. I could have hung out more, and, you know, I didn't get to see her this pregnancy, and it was very tough for me, and I was very angry at myself. And then I found myself becoming angry at my friends, you know, the friends who weren't really around, who were starting to show up all of a sudden. You know, people from high school asking what's going on, what's happening, and I'm just like, mind your own goddamn business. So I was very, very angry. And then the next one, which I found myself very, very hard to deal with, that I didn't really believe until, you know, I really sat down and took an account of my feelings and my emotions, and, you know, had a conversation with my friends, was depression. You know, I I went through a very, very bad depression. I think I told you guys, or I mentioned briefly, there were 3 days that I didn't eat. I didn't eat at all. And one thing for me, and I'll talk about this as we talk about the physical symptoms of grief, is that, you know, I was so depressed. I wasn't motivated. I didn't have any energy. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go to work. But then the other side of that, was again back to denial. And that's one of the things about grief, is that you can go in and out of these stages at any point in time throughout your life. It doesn't go necessarily in a linear progression. But for me, you know, I went from depression back to denial, and I pretended like everything was okay. You know, so I was like 3 days depressed, and in 3 days I was like overeating and, you know, acting like life was okay, and I was going to work like everything was fine. And then, you know, after those stages is the upward turn, and that's where you start to adjust to life. And that's where I am now. I'm adjusting to life without her here. And it's really hard for me to say, because then I go back to guilt. And how come I get to be happy? And how come I get to live my life and she's not here? And that's when I start working through it. You know, as a therapist, I do see a therapist myself, one for self-care. And, you know, it was through talking with him and talking with my friends that I started working through some of my own issues and how I'm feeling now. And now it's back to hope, and hope that, you know, life will move on and I will get better. But I wanted to talk about and focus on some of the physical symptoms of bereavement or grief. You know, you have this energy. It's either like me, it was like an obsessive amount of energy where I just kept working. And I think I worked 51 hours between the funeral, between the day they took off life support and the funeral. So I was like working, and then the other end of that was like muscle tightness and weakness and exhaustion. I was like exhausted. I would come home from work and just crash, and that was around the time where I wasn't eating. I was having issues with sleep, and I was either sleeping way too much, or I was having insomnia and staying up for like hours at a time. And I wasn't the only one. I noticed that my other best friend, Iris, who, you know, I mention all the time, she was finding herself waking up at the hour that they found my friend unconscious. And, you know, it was tough. And, you know, I find myself, I've always thought of myself as intuitive and empathic, and sometimes I feel like something's gonna go wrong. And I remember telling my boyfriend, I was like, babe, something's wrong, I don't know what's going on, but I don't feel right. It felt like panic and increased panic and panic attack, and I was so worried, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And it wasn't until the next day that we found out that she was in the hospital, and my friend had the exact same thing. So we were definitely sharing our frenetic energy. Another symptom of bereavement is digestive upset. So you either have the loss of appetite, nausea, or a hollow stomach, or overeating. So what I felt, which is why I think I gained 10 pounds, one was definitely a stress, but the other one was the hollow stomach. Like, I was so numb to myself. Like, I was feeling disassociative. I didn't feel like I was myself in my own skin. And then the other part was that I couldn't feel if I was full or not. And that scared me more than anything else, because I could deal with not being able to touch things and not be able to feel myself. I have a scar right here. I'm not sure if you can tell. I was cooking, and I literally was bending over to stir something in another pot in the back, and I burned myself on the pot in the front, and I didn't feel that. I didn't feel it at all, and that was okay because I was like, okay, that's grief. But the hollow stomach was something that I'd never dealt with before. You know, the surgery is definitely a tool, but I was scared that I had stretched my stomach out because one, I had gained 10 pounds, and two, I literally didn't know when to stop eating. And I mean, I could eat. Like, I was eating like full blown meals. But then came the 3 days of no food. So, you know, after I sat down and took account, I didn't really overeat as much as I thought. But it was definitely very frightening. So that's definitely something to look into if you guys are feeling or dealing with any of that. Um, yeah, you know, other things were numbness, like I said, guilt. I had increased anxiety. Um, it was really tough. I found myself becoming easily distracted. I found myself missing my exit to work, and I've taken the same exit to work for the last 9 months, and I kept missing it over and over and over again. I couldn't even focus at work, which is why I think they made me take like a mandatory bereavement leave because they were like, we're glad that you want to work, but you need to take some time for yourself, which makes sense. But then I was also angry at them for forcing me to take time off. It was just tough. So, you know, I just wanted to give you guys or start a conversation because, again, you know, we hear about all the upsides of weight loss surgery and everything that goes great, but we never talk about, you know, the little things like grief and how that affects us, or, you know, stalls and how that affects us in our moods and stuff like that. And we never really talk about mental health or you know, mental issues in general. You know, I think I've said this before. I do suffer from anxiety. Every once in a while, I do get panic attacks. I've learned to deal with them over the years. But now, you know, with everything that was going on, I actually had to turn to medication because I wasn't able to sleep. Two, I was having the numbing feelings, and three, my anxiety was off the charts. And so they started me on medication for that, and now I just take it as needed, which is great because I was taking it literally every day. But now I'm doing so much better. And as you guys can tell from my last update video, I lost 6 of the 10 pounds I gained. So I'm at 164 right now. I'm between like 164.2 and 164.8. But yeah, so I'm going to see my surgeon on Thursday, and I will make another update video on Thursday just to let you guys know how that appointment went. And I'm going back to seeing him monthly now because, you know, I've stalled again, and with the weight gain and stuff like that. I know some of you guys were like, he needs to be more sympathetic to what you're going on. I do agree he does need to be more sympathetic, or he needed to a little bit. But I also need to take responsibility for the overeating and the not sleeping and not taking care of myself. So that's what I've been doing these last couple of weeks. So I just wanted to make this video just to, one, educate a little bit, and two, just have a dialogue and a conversation about this stuff because, again, I really don't find videos like this out there. So I want to say thank you guys for watching my journey. Thank you guys for sticking by me, and thank you for everything. You guys really do give me the energy and the hope to continue going, and to know that I'm not alone in this, and that's awesome. But until next time, thank you guys for watching, and I love you. Bye.